It's weird. You like hang out with animals more than people.
Yeah, well, animals get me. I rescued George when he was 2 years old. George never would have survived on his own.
He definitely trusts you.
Last night, George was 7 feet and he weighed 500 pounds. George, you okay, buddy? You're scared. It's okay. This morning, he's 9 feet, pushing 1,000. What's happening to my friend?
Are you familiar with genetic editing? Changes will be incredibly unpredictable.
Is he the only one?
Oh, you didn't know about the...
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host, Elias. Today we have a quick roundup on the new movie Rampage 2018 by Brad Payton, based off the game. I think it vaguely is based off the game, as in they have similar animals, but I'm not really sure if they have the same premise. Rampage. A primatologist, Davis Oiki, shares an unshakable bond with George, the extraordinarily intelligent monkey who has been in his care since birth. But a rogue genetic experiment has gone awry, transforms this gentle ape into a raging monster. As these newly created monsters tear across America, destroying everything in their path, Oiki teams with a discredited genetic engineer to secure an antidote, fighting his way through an ever-changing battlefield, not only to halt a global catastrophe, but to save the fearsome creature that was once his friend. So, Rampage stars Dwayne Johnson, Naomi Harris, Malin Aikman, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and amongst a couple of other individuals that aren't actually shown too often. Joe Manganiano's in it. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. It's Sofia Vergara's husband. So, Rampage. PG-13, that would explain a couple things. Adventure, action, sci-fi. Okay, well, I would probably say it's a fantasy as well, because this probably feels like a young male's dream to watch monsters just destroy and wreak havoc amongst the large cities and towns and municipals and all these places that always seem to be destroyed. Dwayne Johnson, we'll go through the entire thing and just discuss how he tries to save the rampage that is Rampage. And you might hear my co-host in the background, so I apologize about that. But so Rampage, first impressions coming out of Rampage. Well, first we'll talk just real quick, spoiler free, just so that we understand everything and we can keep everything on like a spoiler free basis right now. Just Rampage, I don't know if it's worth going to see in theaters unless you're just a hardcore fan, or you might have a movie pass of some sort. I really don't know if it's necessary to have this type of viewing in a theater. The only reason I would say it would be necessary to see in a theater is just to see monsters tear down the city and whatnot. I mean, if you got a movie pass, I'd say it's worth it. Otherwise, the writing really brings this movie down. The writing and the dumb plotting that happens throughout it. It's difficult to recommend otherwise. I went to a theater, wasn't terribly packed in comparison to last week's Quiet Place showing on the same time, same place, Thursday, 7 o'clock. And I I wasn't really sure what to think about it, just because I thought it was going to be a bigger turnout. I'm not really sure if everyone went to the movies last week or something like that, or if it was something else. It's just like the marketing wasn't there, or there weren't. I really don't know. But Kelly joined me. She brought a couple of her kids, and they generally enjoyed it. I think the last act is what really brings the action to what we're looking for. My biggest thing is I think that there's a lack of action in the beginning, and then they have a couple of good sets, and a couple of good pieces, set pieces that allow for fluent action, I guess is what I'd say, but not great action. So overall, Rampage was I overall disappointed me, just even though I used a movie pass there. So I just that's my impressions of Rampage, spoiler free. So let's jump into spoilers. Hop in real quick. I'm trying to do it real quick because I got a co-host that doesn't want to be quiet right now. She must have a lot to say about Rampage. So anyway, we're in the spoiler section right now of Rampage. Rampage, directed by Brad Payton. He brought Journey to the Mysterious Island, I believe, which was the sequel in the Journey to the Earth or something like that with Brendan Fraser. Never saw it, wasn't that interested. San Andreas came out, really wasn't that interested. I don't believe I saw that in theaters. However, having seen San Andreas out of theaters, not really having to devote the money or too much time to it, I have seen it on television, and it's pure stupid fun, but I enjoyed it just on like a spectacle level, I guess. It's completely stupid too, but I really don't know how to describe it in comparison to this, because this I don't really know how to describe Rampage without comparing it to San Andreas, because it really just feels like you're just hopping in a different movie with monsters. Just add monsters. San Andreas, just add monsters. It's that easy. So there's I'd say there's few good things about this, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the visuals, I honestly like the score. It wasn't strong, but it wasn't bad. You can hear a bad score, and I definitely didn't hear one. A couple there were really weak antagonists. They were almost cackling. I heard the Double Toasted podcast actually compare them to the Pokemon Team Rocket or something like that antagonists. They were a couple of cartoonish villains. They were just ridiculous. They could not be taken like seriously at all. And at one point, I don't know. I didn't know what to think about it. They really brought the movie down in not in any good way, obviously. But I'm gonna have to add on Kelly's impressions to this movie in a little bit. But since it's a Thursday showing, couldn't get her audio in yet. But I know she has some strong impressions. So we'll go through the different. What do you want? She doesn't agree with the Rampage reviews I'm giving right now. She must have something. So anyways, the good things that help alleviate the bad things would be, like I said, Dwayne "The Rock," the visuals, the music. The music's not bad, but there's so much terrible writing. The antagonists are just terrible. The plotting stupid. Just it feels like it's written by men, more ways than one. I actually found this about the same level of enjoyment as Jurassic World. I really have not enjoyed Chris Pratt too much since he's left Parks and Rec. I'm kind of in the opposite camp of most people, but I didn't enjoy him in Jurassic World, and seeing Dwayne The Rock in this really opened my eyes to thinking that maybe he would have been a great choice for this. So I was just thinking that based on the way that The Rock was communicating with George the monkey, he tends to work well with, I guess, whoever is wearing the mocap. It's someone's wearing an actual visual cap that captures all of it's called a mocap. It captures all of their facial features and recognitions and emotions so that it can be portrayed as a monkey. So I thought the dynamic worked really well between The Rock and George. I thought that if it had a little bit better of writing, then it could have been like a really great movie, or a really fun movie, I say. And I had somewhat fun, and it's mostly at the action parts, but I didn't get enough of the action. And some of the action that I did get was almost kind of cut dispersely throughout. So I didn't like kind of being dragged back and forth. There's only like, for the first two acts, I'd say there's like two or three big sets where George is breaking out, and then the other animals would come into life, or being mutated and stuff like that. They had some good sets there. I dig the wolf set. I digged George breaking out and everything like that. But overall, I thought it was really dragging. The dialogue had me in a snooze fest and wondering what was going on. There's 5 different writers, like two screenplay artists, and story by like Carl DeCruz and Ryan, what's his face? I forgot the writers. There's so many writers on this that you could clearly tell that it had several different intentions behind this. And so that's why it kind of feels like it has several different tonal shifts, and it's changing. Sometimes it's too goofy, and sometimes it's too serious, and then other times it's really it has a lot of dramatic. I was gonna say levity, comedic levity, but the times that when it was supposed to be dramatic, sometimes it would dip into comedy, almost slapstick in some sorts. So, yeah, it was a bumpy ride of a movie. During around the second act, I think, I could really tell that they had probably shot a much longer movie, but they edited it down like a lot. I think it was about an hour and 45 minutes or something like that. They probably shot a 2.5 hour movie. If they were like, no one's going to see a 2.5 hour Rampage movie, and I would have been so pissed if I had to sit through that and get the same result for 2.5 hours, because they were just inconsistencies in the writing, and just the way they would explain things and come to conclusions, and things would happen to people. Like Dwayne The Rock gets shot several times, is pretty much never addressed. Like The Rock beats up some of the military. He just gets unbelievable is one thing, but then living in just like your own world where you can do anything you want. You when you're The Rock, I guess you can just do anything, steal anything, drive anything, fight anything. I mean, it's come to that level now. He's a superhero on more levels than one, and I guess you could believe that, but if they just would have fixed a couple of things about the writing, we could have changed this movie from like an or a meh to a damn, that was pretty fun, and I would love to recommend it. And it's I walked into Pacific Rim the last 30 minutes a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't believe it. It was just shot so terribly. So it wasn't quite a Pacific Rim 2 level. It wasn't like trying to be like dumb or anything like that. I don't know if it was trying to be dumb. I think they wanted to be slightly more serious, and I believe it would be if they would have just cleaned it up or didn't have several different people on the writing staff. So maybe too many cooks in the kitchen. The editing made it much more difficult to enjoy, because you could clearly tell that they would tell somebody something, they would cut to a reaction shot or something like that, or something in the background, and then they would finish the sentence with something else, or they would cut to a different. They wouldn't finish the sentence, or if they were asking a question, then they wouldn't answer it, or just cut to something else. It was very odd, and I could really tell that there was some choppy editing going on. So I think I might leave it there. Trying to think if we had any good anything else to say about it. I like this the beginning, some of the things that they would say between like one of his co-workers, one of the ladies that had just started there, was like trying to get drinks with him and stuff like that, and it was kind of inappropriate, but it was also written really bad, because like his buddy was like, you better go with her and stuff like that. It's like, no, she works with you type stuff, and it was just written weird. Kind of gives a bad example for today's workplace environment, I guess. Just especially with what's going on these days. You don't need any of that. Some of the dramatic aspects about the ape, or the gorilla, sorry. They were kind of trying to have him include like little things, like the monkey at the beginning, and she was and he just bumps the monkey out at the very beginning, and it draws it back in. It never really says you should include other monkeys or save people, or there was not really a lesson to be learned, I guess. Ultimately, and I felt like that they were trying to set something up at the beginning for it, but maybe due to the terrible writing and choppy editing, it just turned out a big cluster, and they said screw it because it kind of felt like that. Like a couple things, they were juggling so many things in the air, and they probably put most of their money toward the effects department, because where else are you gonna put it? I'd say the effects, they did their job. They did. They didn't take me out of it, maybe except for one or two shots that you could clearly tell. You can pretty much clearly tell that they're monsters and stuff like that, and that they're made in a computer or something like that on a special program. But there are a few shots where you see George and how he's interacting with The Rock, and it's really effective in some levels. It kind of brought me back to the better parts of Planet of the Apes, the most recent series by Matt Reeves, I believe. I could feel some sort of something there, but the writing was holding it back so hard. It had like a chain around the movie. Like it was like, oh no, you fucking don't. You think this is gonna be a good movie? Oh hell no, this is not. So it was that writing that was really holding it back. So that was kind of unfortunate. I think that I've probably knocked on the writing enough. The reasoning for, I guess, the other scientists, or genetic engineer, I think. And let me find her. What her role was again. Her role was genetic engineer. Okay, so to get an anecdote. So I thought that the whole thing with her brother, okay, so I understood that the company ended up contributing to the death of her brother, and so it kind of gave her reasoning to go into this company and do all that. The reason the company was taking all this, they wanted to create a havoc in the city, was just ridiculous in the first place. That they wanted to have everyone, the apes and the wolves and the monsters fight each other so that they could get a sample. Are you kidding me? Like that was ridiculous, and they were way too young to be running a company like that. And they basically had nobody working for the company the entire time they were there. I mean, we only saw them talking the entire time. It was I think it was a brother-sister combo or something like that. I'm not really sure what the dynamic was, but you could clearly tell they were bumbling idiots. And from the first shot that you had the brother in, I hated these characters. Actually, they really pulled the movie down for me. They played it was Jake Lacey and Malin Akerman played Claire Wyden and Brett Wyden. So yeah, they were siblings, and I just was not feeling them at all. Not at all. I wish that we would have Joe Manganiello, I don't know, playing Burke just in the movie just a little bit longer. He fits the part. I'm not really sure if he can, like, you know, talk the talk, but he was walking the walk. That's basically all you needed for this movie. You just needed to scowl at the camera and hold a gun, be able to hold a gun effectively. And yeah, he was in and he was out. A couple of the tropes that they did a lot that I wasn't too crazy about were the when they have a monster, like kind of like Alien style, you know, they're always looking for the monster, and then you have the general looking back on the cameras, and then everything starts going down on the soldiers, and then slowly one by one the cameras like and they all like are slowly getting taken out by the monster or something like that. They did that here. I almost counted 2 or 3 times not having it. Can we come up with a different way to do that? You know, just a little bit more creative, a little bit less reliant on older films and how they did it. It really felt like I was watching a collection of different movies all put into one, and then written by a bad writer. And The Rock really does everything he can to do to save this. I'm trying to think of it. I was actually thinking this in the movie. I was like thinking to myself, if The Rock was not in this movie, would this movie even be watchable? And I think that is the real question. I don't think this movie would have made diddly if we didn't have The Rock in it. I don't think I would have saw it if it wouldn't have had The Rock in it. I can't even think of anyone else I would want to see in this other than The Rock, just because he embodies excessiveness and just not even excessive masculinity, just excessive personality in every aspect, just about. I mean, he doesn't generally play a jerk. It's hard to find him playing a jerk. He sort of plays one in the Fast and Furious, but he's not really that bad of a guy generally. And so he's kind of likable on all aspects, and he brings a diversity that people like. The diversity of the cast was interesting. They had kind of 2 lead stars that were black, and then the antagonists were white, and so it was just interesting. The protagonist didn't have like a league of minorities behind him either. That it sometimes throws me off when they're like, oh, we got the Asian, got the Hispanic guy, got the Indian guy, got the black guy, got the white guy, you got all of them, and it's like they combined or something. I understand it looks good for diversity reasons, but at least disperse them a little bit and make it a little bit more natural so it doesn't look so as obvious. But they didn't really do it here. They just kind of put, I guess they did, I want to say they did a pretty good job dispersing most of the diversity. I do remember, like, I think it was an Asian guy that was a head of the FBI. I did notice a few of those, and I enjoyed that. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Is this guy drunk every time he's acting or something like that? I don't really understand his deal. I've seen him a few times in The Walking Dead, and from what I've seen, he's just like bumbling, fumbling, kind of acts like I don't know, like just like a drunk dad or something like that. I can't really like put it any better than that. Like, he's just kind of embodies that. I don't know if I would ever believe that he was in the I think it was the CIA or something like that. I don't remember which one he was in, but he was in one of these professions that I just didn't believe, especially him walking around with a gun in his pants right in front, like he was from Texas or something like that, and then had a big old belt buckle and stuff. I was waiting for where was this big old hat? I was curious where they just must have said that was just too much. His drunk ass. I don't know if he's drunk. I don't know, but yeah, it was a mess of a movie. My goodness. That's all I gotta say. But I do gotta say that the last two acts, from like, what's it called? The second act, I really enjoyed the airplane scene. Him trying to break out from the airplane scene and everything, that was really nice. Freshly done. I thought it was. The Rock said, "You saved a lot of people," and talking to George, and yeah, he might have, but he also seemed to like take out a lot of people as well, which wasn't really addressed that much. So yeah, it was a kind of a toss up. There was a lot of destruction of the town or the city. It was Chicago, I believe. But yeah, it makes the Avengers and Man of Steel kind of look like small stuff. But yeah, they took it all out, and then after it was all said and done, it was a big joke at the end. You know what? I don't really know if I believe that joke should have been there, but it kind of fit the ridiculousness of the movie, and so I felt that I knew that they weren't gonna kill George, because we got to have another Rampage, or we don't gotta have another Rampage. They're thinking that we gotta have a way to have a Rampage 2 or something like that. You know, I could definitely see them trying to make this some sort of franchise if it made enough money, but I don't know. Based on the reviews and then based off of the people that are just there. I mean, the kids that Kelly has are like 6 and 9 and stuff, and you know, the 6-year-old could barely stay in his seat because I could tell he was bored. So it, you know, naturally, there was too much. I would say there's just too much talking, or there's too much plot and terrible writing that was getting in the way of all our monkeys and all of our wolves and all of our alligators or whatever, crocodiles or something like that, whatever the hell that was. But the main thing is that I just wanted more. I just wanted more action and more stuff, and I understood that cost the most money. And I have a feeling that what they took out of the movie in the editing was a lot more talking. And so for a movie named Rampage, I just wanted just more action, and I guess more pacing. That's what it is. Pacing and tonal shifts and bad writing is like the trifecta that is what's bringing this movie down. Because I've seen most of these actors and other things, and they can do much better. So overall, if you can make it with a movie pass, I would say, I guess it's worth the spectacle. There's definitely like something between George and The Rock, and it's almost worth saying, I wish this would have been in a slightly better movie. Because something with the sign language, and after just seeing A Quiet Place, and I'd say 80% of that movie is sign language, if not 90. It's really cool. It's bringing sign language into a much more culturally relevant spotlight, and I bet it's exciting for that community as well. It encourages me to want to learn. I saw that the kids, when they were done after the movie had walked out, they were talking about, we want to learn sign language, and we want to be involved in the type of stuff and be able to communicate and learn and grow. And I think that sets a really good example. Although all the stuff they had just witnessed was mostly horrific. So and destruction. Kelly, when she was over there in one of the last scenes, when the crocodile's taking out what's his face, George, and there's a lot of like back and forth. Dwayne The Rock's gonna take on the crocodile with George, and they like tagging each other in like this is like a WWE special or something like that. It was crazy, and I can't even believe that it was somewhat believable that The Rock would be able to take on this crocodile. It wasn't like he was going and punching mountains and stuff like that, like he was in San Andreas. So that's a plus. This was a monster that definitely didn't want to die. These big old monster movies, they never die. They never die the first time. So, all right, everyone. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the Rampage podcast. I apologize for any background sounds and co-host sounds. I have a little furry friend I'm taking care of. So I have full podcast library on SoundCloud, YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, all the popular ones, all the popular podcast apps. Working on Spotify soon, so we have you up there. Anything else off the top of the head? Nothing that I can think of, to be honest. What's coming down the tube? We got Avengers that's coming up pretty soon. I'm excited to see that. I hope that I can get a seat. I'm not going to pre-order anything because I don't typically have to, but you never know. If it's not on a Thursday, I'll try to get on the Friday show or something like that. But either way, I appreciate you listening, and check out all the other podcasts. Like I said, on the other podcast apps. Thanks. Take it easy.
Coming back. You have to evacuate Chicago. George didn't ask for this. They're gonna put him down. That's not happening.
Is there something in the river?
I was just thinking the only thing that's missing right now is a giant crocodile.